Hello viewers, and welcome to the Commander Center in the studio of the National Television Network, NTN. And I'd like to welcome you to the program, Agriculture on the Move. I am Philip Sidney. In studio today is Team WASCO. Why WASCO and agriculture? Of course, we're dealing with water. But just let me say to you that the ministry or the minister with responsibility for agriculture, fisheries, physical planning, natural resources and cooperatives has the responsibility for WASCO, which falls under natural resources together with forestry and water resources. So that is why we have this marriage with WASCO and agriculture. With me is Mr. Gordon Wyke, who is the head of the project management unit. Next to him is Cherianne Williams, who is the communication and marketing officer. And next to her is Mr. Timothy James, who is the senior supervisor in the water resource department at WASCO. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for coming. Okay, Mr. Wyke, I'll start with you. And of course, there's so many projects in that unit since I was associated with the ministry under the management of the minister. And I've been asking and craving to get WASCO to come on board and let people know what you all have done. I think you all have done a tremendous job. So, Mr. Wyke, I'll start with you when it comes to projects. And I will start with John Compton Dam, the rehabilitation project. I know why the desilting project is being undertaken. We also know that there are challenges. So tell us where we are with that project, Mr. Wyke.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Sidney, and to your viewers as well. So as most of St. Lucia would be aware, the John Compton Dam was severely affected by extreme weather events in 2010 and 2013. Where we had this significant amount of rainfall, which caused a lot of damage to the reservoir itself. So subsequent to that, it was decided or seen necessary that these extreme events actually brought a lot of sediment into the lake, into the reservoir area, and therefore it filled up the reservoir quite significantly. And therefore, that would have had a great impact in terms of the water supply and the water security to the nation. So it was deemed very necessary that a lot of this sediment be removed from the reservoir to provide the adequate amount of water supply that was available from the reservoir when it was constructed in 1996. So the project was undertaken, and what we have essentially are two projects that we have undertaken. One is the preparation of what we call the sediment disposal area, where the sediment from the reservoir will be transported, and I'll come to that in a minute, to this disposal area. We began work on the disposal area in 2018, and it was basically supposed to be completed last year. But very unlike our water supply, our water service resources that happened this year in terms of the very dry weather. The last years have been plagued by significant rainfall and has slowed us significantly in the work that we have been able to do. Be that as it may though, we have made progress, and the conditions of the weather this year have allowed us to make some significant progress over the last few weeks. So currently we are at about 83% completion of what we're doing. We're building what is called our starter dike, which will essentially contain all of the sediment behind the starter dike. So we're about 80% completion of the starter dike, and we are going to reach a point by next week where we'll be at a particular elevation where we'll be practically ready to commence the movement of the sediment from the reservoir into this disposal area. Okay. So we're very, very close to where we want to be in terms of readiness to move to handle the sediment. So let's talk about the other project, which is what we call, which would be the dredging actually of the reservoir itself, and the movement of the sediment to the disposal area. That project, it was undertaken last year as well, when we had to basically get the contractor on board and that contractor had to basically supply a dredge and also construct a pipeline from the reservoir to the disposal area to move the sediments via the dredge to pump it across to the disposal area. So all that is already in place. The dredge is there, the pipeline is practically ready, and essentially we are ready to begin the dredging works. However, of course, as we recognize, this year has been a very, very dry in terms of the weather, and we cannot undertake that dredging component as yet, simply because the weather will not allow us to. We need to have some rainfall and for the reservoir levels in the reservoirs to rise.
Correct.
They have dropped significantly, and Mr. James could probably brief you on that. They've dropped significantly over the last few months, weeks and months, and we'd have to wait a little bit until we can see the rainfall return when we can begin the dredging. But the dredging will begin this year, in a few months, and we will be able to remove the sediments and be able by that to provide get our lower port, which is where we extract water from, get that cleared, because it is blocked right now by the sediment. Once we clear that, we would now have a greater ability to provide water to the rest of the nation.
So both activities depend on the weather conditions. So right
in
now,
a sense, yes.
the dry season is conducive for the completion of the sediment area.
That's correct.
Okay,
yes.
But of course, if that is complete and you do not have enough rain water to do your dredging, you cannot do your dredging.
Correct, exactly. It will hamper us significantly, yes.
Okay, so how soon from now are you thinking with the dry season on now for the completion of the sediment area?
Yeah. Okay, so as I said, we're going to reach a level by end of next week where we think we can have a capacity available for dredging.
Okay.
That will definitely be the case.
Okay.
But we have to also continue for, I would say, another 4 weeks or so beyond that, 4 to 6 weeks, where we're going to raise the level even further and have additional capacity available for the sediments to be deposited.
Great. Timothy, well, boy, the work is on your back now, because tell us what's happening to the dam in terms of the dry season. We know the water levels have gone down considerably. Tell us exactly what are your constraints, basically.
Okay, as most persons know, we had a drought warning was issued at the end of March. I think on March 31st, well, it was announced to the nation around April the 6th. When we were informed about the drought alert. Basically, from the 1st of March, we were at an overflow level at the Compton Dam, which was 343 feet above sea level. But what we realized in the month of March, the levels start going down significantly because of the lack or the below average rainfall which was being experienced around the island. As we speak today, May the 29th, we are now at a level of 316.7 feet above sea level, which is about 16.3 feet below the overflow point. That level, it is actually close to the only port which we are currently abstracting from, which is at 312 feet above sea level. So we only about 4 feet away from that level, which is very worrying for us in terms of, because we just in May, and when we had our last dry season or severe dry season, which was in 2015, our lowest level was 320.6 feet, and that level was reached on July the 10th, 2015. Okay. So literally 2 months, almost 2 months away from July in terms of getting to that level. So because of that, we had to do a number of initiatives in order now to be able to extract water from below that port, because we realized that based on the announcement from the Met, we realized that we will not be getting a break anytime soon from that severe dry weather. Even though as of June the 1st, we're going to be getting into the hurricane season, but that doesn't mean that we're going to start getting rain water immediately. Even to put in perspective, we had a tropical wave which passed over the island between the 20th and the 21st of May, which was last week. And we only was able to get an increase of about 0.3 feet in the dam. We only got, 19.6 millimeters of rain, which did not do anything significant to even raise the levels in the reservoir. Wow. So that's why we actually doing some stringent water rationing. I know customers been impacted severely, but we had no choice because we had to manage the limited amount of water we have to ensure that it lasts throughout the entire dry season, which we're not sure how long it will last. We have to look at things in two ways. We want the rain, but still we don't want St. Lucia to get any severe weather like a hurricane to cause even further destruction, but we need the rain, and we would like it maybe in increments, so at least it could start raising the level of the dam. If we do not get the rains, we have already put things in place to be able to now start abstracting from the lower port if we get to that 312, which we think, based on the current trend, we might get to that by maybe the next 2 weeks. But we realize that we cannot even wait to get to the 312, because at the 312, that's the lowest you're gonna take out water from the current system, the current arrangement at the dam. So we have to make arrangement to even start doing that before we get to that level.
But the lower port is blocked, right?
Yes, the lower port was blocked after Hurricane Thomas, which experts say is between, say, is about, well, when it was first done, they said we were 19 feet above that port. But we're not sure what it is now, because after that we had some severe weather. We had the Christmas Eve trough and then other weather events. So we're not sure at the exact thing. I know the project unit has done their various tests to see what amount of silt, so they may have a more accurate figure now. Okay. Because you're talking about 10 years ago, that's Hurricane Thomas, but they now would have more in-depth study to see what exactly, how far up we are.
How much water is extracted on a daily basis from the dam to supply your customers out there in the north?
In normal circumstances, when everything is okay, we abstract between 7.5 to about 10 million gallons per day. Depends on your demand. Also, to augment that, we also abstract from the Vanna intake. That's what so we abstract about 0.9 million gallons per day from the Vanna intake on a normal basis, so that because of that, we're able to abstract less from the dam on a normal basis.
Okay, but you also have this dam in Ravin Paso. Is that another area you can extract from?
Right. Ravin Paso was another backup area for if in case we need extra, especially now during a time like the dry season, we had Ravin Paso as a backup to abstract water. But even at that river realized that the flows are quite low, and it did not make sense. It wasn't making any sense to abstract water from that, but we did prepare that area. We desilted the river, we prepared our pumps, so we are able to abstract water from it. But because of the current flows, it does not support us taking any significant amount of water from it.
What does this other dam, that is the dam they call Tisu, before the Compton Dam was constructed? Right. You also get water. Is that significant now?
We still abstract water from that. That's our gravity source. But because of the current dry season, you hardly get anything from it. Wow. The amount is because there's no area there where the water is damped. It's like straight from the river. When we have some heavy rainfall, you could get as high as 3 million gallons a day or more from that source. But as you go in for the dry season now, it would be even less than 1 million gallons per day.
Okay, Chayam, before we end our first segment, I know customers are calling you and you're being bombarded with calls. How are you coping?
Well, we are coping well in terms of giving customers information about what the current situation is. Of course, the communications unit is supported by the control room, where we also have communications officers who respond to customers who have queries and complaints and so on. And that is in addition to the customers who would come in during normal working hours to our customer services department. So those representatives also assist. In terms of providing information, we do that on a regular basis based on the information received from the technical team, Mr. James, Mr. Wyke, and others who provide information to us to let us know exactly what the situation is as it relates to water distribution. And we translate that information in simpler terms. We take it out from the technical terms and take out all of the technical jargons used there to put it in simpler terms so that the customers, all customers would understand. At least that is the objective. We do have to explain to them a lot about why the rationing system is necessary, and we find ourselves having to tell them how the system works, because people pretty much don't have a great appreciation or a good understanding of how the system works because of the queries and complaints that are logged. So we are able to deduce that, and we make sure that we are able to present the information in a way that is palatable and in a way that they can understand. We know that it is inconvenient at this time in terms of people getting water at their homes. The taps sometimes do not flow, and we understand how inconvenient that is. So we try to impress upon people the need for them to take responsibility for storage at home, because that is an area that we find our customers are very deficient in, and we try to encourage them to have extra storage, not only with as it relates to buckets and other receptacles, but storage tanks, because of the fact that we understand that sometimes the water arrives at certain locations at odd hours, when people are probably asleep, and it's not pretty practical for people to be up, trying to store water or trying to, fill up their receptacles. So if you have a storage tank, for example, it can eliminate the hassle of you trying to wait up for the water with no guarantee of when it will come. So we try to impress that upon our consumers, our customers a lot.
In light of COVID, correct me if I'm wrong, where they're asking customers in terms of payment, how is there a moratorium on payments? How I don't know, how does that work?
Well, we can tell customers or reassure customers, in fact, because we've said it before, that there are no plans for any sort of disconnection. So until further notice, there are no plans for disconnection. We did release a statement informing customers that all our services had resumed, and that is because at the height of the whole COVID and lockdown period, we had scaled back to only two of our services being offered. Among the services that resumed would have been the disconnections, but we wanted customers to understand that disconnections are not automatic, and it is not something that is always imposed on customers by the management. This service too is also requested by some customers in certain instances, and we wanted customers to know that if it is something that you request, if it comes to us upon your request, then we are able to do it. And some of the examples of this that I want to point to is if people are moving from one apartment to another, if people have a vacant building that they want to cut the utilities on and so on, we are able to do that for them. So in that light, in that sense, the disconnection services would be granted if you request it. The other services that we offer, the bill payments, the queries and so on, these are open. So in the case where customers are not able to meet their financial obligations to pay their bills and so on, we understand and we want to work with customers, so we are encouraging them to come in, speak with us, tell us where you are at in terms of meeting your financial obligations, and if you are not able to do so, and I'm sure we can come to a workable arrangement. Conversely, if there are customers who are able to pay their bills and who are not as affected as others in terms of their finances, we do encourage you to come into our offices and make those payments. You want to eliminate having a backlog of payments to clear. So we want to encourage you to, you know, come in and make those payments.
Very good, very good. Okay, we're due for our first break. You're watching Agriculture on the Move. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon.
In a world where germs are widespread, comes a group of superhero germ busters, the germaphores.
We spend most of our time fighting germs, every day of the week. After I play, I wash my hands. Before I eat, I wash my hands. After I play with my puppy, I wash my hands. I cover my sneezes with my forearm or elbow when I am in public. And I cover my cough to avoid spreading dangerous germs. We are the germaphores, germ-busting superheroes. You can be too. Always wash your hands and cover your sneeze and cough. Let's stop the spread of menacing germs.
We'll be back, germaphores, with more powerful germs.
And we will be waiting to prevent you from spreading.
Welcome back to the program, Agriculture on the Move. But we have Team WASCO in the house, and I think everybody is glued to the television. I'm hoping, because you want to know when you're getting water. Well, just a little more praying and you'll get water. Mr. White, let's move on to another program that is very dear to me. I saw the birth of that project. I remember some years ago, that's a long time ago, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, there was a committee down in the Denry North area, in the Mabuya area, a community group, and of course, water availability was a problem. And with our engineer from the ministry, we walked up, some steep slopes to get to see, where the river could have been dammed and whatever. But nothing happened since, and the people kept on getting, muddy water, as you know, okay? I'm happy that this project, has come to fruition, and of course, tell us exactly the commencement, where the seed was sown and where we are today.
Right, okay, good. Yeah, like you, I'm very pleased to be part of, maybe involved with that particular project, because I've been told, the stories and the horror stories of years and years of people being without water in the Denry North area. So it was a great satisfaction to be able to be involved in that, and to see people getting a good supply. So essentially, the Denry North project, as it is, just the Denry North area, essentially was a project that was funded by the Caribbean Development Bank, okay, and also with a grant by the government of Mexico as well, too, okay. So it was essentially done in 2 phases, and the first phase was completed in 2018. This first phase essentially dealt with building the water intake at the upper Mabua Valley, running a water pipeline, and also to a new water treatment plant that is in Tomaso. Okay, this is the first phase. Overall, the project is supposed to supply about 1.4 million gallons of water a day, which is what it's doing now. But in the first phase, we were to supply about 0.4 million gallons of water a day. Right. So the plant was essentially built to accommodate that, and then there was some transmission pipeline put in place. That under phase 1, we found areas such as Montparnasse, Richefort, Tomaso. They got a supply from the plant at that particular time. The first phase, which lasted about 12 months. Okay, so in early 2019, they were being serviced, and they had a very good supply at that point. Phase 2, we had a year's gap or so before we were able to implement phase 2 of the project. Phase 2 basically was to expand the water treatment plant from the 0.4 to 1.4 million gallons, to expand the transmission capacity to the further areas of Denry North. We also built 3 new pump stations and rehabilitated 1 particular pump station. And we built a number of new storage tanks, 1 at Tomaso, 1 at Montparnasse, 1 at Denry North. Okay, so Essentially what we did, so all of this infrastructure went into place, and the storage capacity was about 300,000 more cubic meters of supply storage in the area to supplement what was already there. Okay. So this is all done at about a cost of about $8.64 million US dollars. This is phase 2. We have essentially completed the project, and it was essentially on stream from about February of this year. Okay. We had a transition period where we moved from the old system back by November, December, transitioned into the new system by January, February. So at this point, residents of Denry North are receiving a better supply, a better served supply in terms of having all the capacity into the pumps and the storage tanks and so on. Of course, they are also impacted like everywhere else in St. Lucia by the dry season. But even so, because of the infrastructure we put in place, we're able to get a supply to the residents right now. So we have seen tremendous improvement in the Denry North area because of this particular project. So we're quite happy with what has occurred there.
Great. So Tim, falls back to you now. So you're happy now. Tell us how you're working the system. Of course, with the dry season, on right now. Okay,
as Mr. White indicated, in the Denry North, customers are quite happy, even though we have reduced flows at our rivers, but because of the size of the population and the demand, we're still able to supply that area with quality, consistent, efficient supply of water. So that's for the Denry North. However, further south, you're talking about from Micoud all the way to Soufrière, the yield from our intakes have reduced so as much as 80% of water. So that means in a lot of areas, we are stretched in terms of supplying our customers with pipeline water on a regular basis.
You mean Micoud too?
Micoud right around to you're talking about Micoud. We have reduced flows, but there are various parts of Micoud, say Monipour and other areas, where the water supply is not as consistent. We have to do a lot of trucking in the south to get to residents, especially in Saltibus and these areas in Vie Fort. Choiseul, again, we have problems in terms of reaching all our customers. So that the whole south, from Soufrière to Micoud, you have various areas which are, because of the yield from the river, we have issues with supplying our customers at a regular basis. There are some persons that may be out of water for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and depends on where you are and according to what elevation you live, because the higher you are, it even takes a longer time to reach you, or more close enough other areas to get to your area. The canneries and the ancillary systems are holding up. These normally hold up during a dry season, and so far they're still holding up. Even though we have lost significant amount of water in terms of our, the raw water side, but still we are holding up in terms of getting to our customers. The Babonneau area has been impacted severely. We sometimes go down as low as 90% from our normal, which is only be able to get to 10% of the water we normally get to supply our customers in the Babonneau area. And the Babonneau area includes not only the whole of Babonneau, but you're talking about Moni, you're talking about as far as Labon, Diramo, Wafimokok, Margaret Tooth, Monsito, and all these areas receive water from the Hill 20 treatment plant. Okay. So because of that great demand, the raw water has a significant impact on that. So what we have been doing, and thankfully we have the John Compton Dam. Yes, the levels are going down rapidly, but because of the John Compton Dam, now we are able to augment the supply at Hill 20 by supplying them from the Phoebus treatment plant via the Mon towards Babonneau to help augment the supply in Babonneau to be able to reach our customers. So sometimes we have to do it at least 3 times a week to do that. Although we affect other customers who depend on that same supply, say from the North, Castries North, etc., and even as far as Balata, but we have to do it because we cannot leave Babonneau without water, whereas another community will be enjoying. So it's a difficult balancing act, I know a lot of customers, get irate when they don't get the water when they expect it. But we try our best to reach everybody. The higher elevated areas are always a challenge. Some areas we actually have to truck to them because because your system is empty, it will have to take maybe 4 days to actually get to you. And so what we do to help ease the burden, we try to truck to those areas where we know it will take a while to reach. What we have been realizing that we still, I think, we as a nation, we still do not look at water storage as a serious thing. I guess because sometimes we have it in abundance, we take it for granted, and we only realize that we don't have it when a dry season comes around. I see people rush to get water tanks. Even they have lines from, right now, certain companies have persons on a waiting list for water tanks because it's a high demand now.
Yeah.
And persons never see it fit that, to get all this storage available. Even during the rainy season, that we still don't understand that we need to have storage, because if we have a severe hurricane and all WASCO infrastructure is damaged,
Correct.
where are you going to get water? You do have not even the rainwater you'll be able to harvest. And I think we need to take rainwater harvesting even more serious in St. Lucia. We build a lot of our houses, and we do enough. We could, and it's not so much more money to add a system to at least capture at least 5,000 gallons of rainwater. We can have it as part of our mortgage when we negotiating for our mortgage loans, so that when you're doing your foundation, when you can have now your systems as part of the whole, not an afterthought. And I think that's something that we have to educate our masses in terms of water storage. Persons complain that you send the water at midnight. I don't send the water at midnight. The water gets to you at midnight because of where you are.
Correct.
But if you have a water tank, while you're asleep, your water tank will fill up. If you're at work, and they say the water get to your home at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. and you go to work, you get back home 6 o'clock. Sometimes by the time you get to work and the demand in the area increases because everybody bathing, if you high up, you might lose the supply. Now, if you have a water tank during the day, all your storage would have filled up. So nighttime now, you have your stored water you can use, and it can be replenished. And then you still have to look at storing water for at least based on the number of persons you have in your home. So you cannot have a 200-gallon tank to serve 10 of you or 5 of you in a house for, say, 5 days at least minimum. So if in case, so you look at all these various factors in terms of planning and stuff to make yourself more resilient. And I think we don't practice resilience in St. Lucia in terms of how we do anything.
I think I'll take the step further, because it's not now. I don't know if Sherry, you probably would know. If a house plan is sent to planning for approval, I've been hearing this time and time again. It will not be approved if you don't have a cistern. Okay, who's policing this? Okay.
Well, I think it maybe has to go maybe in terms of legislating these things. Now, if it's not legislated or it's not part of the building code, persons will still, because
I've been hearing this for years.
Well, it's not maybe not been put in place. So I remember after Thomas, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
Because persons remember when the dam had this big the damage, and persons thought we would have been out of water for 3 months. But thankfully, because of the hardworking staff at WASCO, we were able to bring back the dam in less than 2 weeks. Persons were talking about rainwater harvesting. But from the time, and what I find about us, when the iron is hot, we
are reactive.
Reactive. But after
proactive.
when things get back to normal, we forget, and stuff. Look at even COVID-19. When persons St. Lucia had COVID and stuff, everybody have their masks. Now persons around, they forget about the 6 foot, they forget about wearing masks, they forget everything else because they feel that's gone. And we become complacent and not do what we're supposed to do.
One of the things I'm hearing, like now, I've heard it before, but it's coming to the fore even more now. Why WASCO is not building more storage capacity, say in the north? In other words, you would want residents to buy tanks, build cisterns. They're still saying WASCO still are not living to their expectation. In other words, if you know the capacity in the north is X, all right, during the rainy season, you have a capacity. So in the dry season, it will augment. What are your thoughts?
Remember we have, look at the raw water side. We have our storage, the dam. Okay, that's a big, you go look at it as a big reservoir.
Correct.
Without that, we would have been serious problems. In terms of water tanks, we do have a lot of storage. Persons will argue, yes, we need to have more. But guess what? You still need the water to be consistent to get to those storage tanks, to always keep them filled. Because if you don't have the continuous supply into water, a storage tank, let's say you have a 100,000 gallon tank, and you have the 20 customers, and each customer have a 2,000 gallon storage, that tank will be empty within 2 days. So you still have to have the continuous supply into the tanks. Yes, I hear you in terms of us doing that, but I think there are other things we're going to, because of the dry season, and you realize that person talk about climate change and the change. What we realize now, the average rainfall levels have been dropping. We have below average rainfall. So now we, as a company, are looking at other ways to now be able to survive this drought, especially in the south. So now we're talking about desal plants, even a major one in the south, especially because the south don't have any dam. So that would help in terms of the dry season to always have water available to our customers. And then look at the north in terms of the demand, the rate of demand, the growth in terms of population. Because after a while, yes, the dam still serving its useful purpose, but over the years, you will find that even the water we produce in front of the dam may not be enough to supply us with water for the next maybe 40, 50 years.
Trucking water. How is that managed in terms of priority? Because people are calling and they're saying that they have no water for 5 days, 10 days. How does that system work? How do you prioritize? Do you have enough trucks to truck water to those areas at any given time?
Well, when you come to you'll never have enough to supply our customers in terms of trucking. What we do, we look at, based on the calls we get from our main call center, the control room. We look at your location, and if we know we can supply you via the pipe, we will not send a water truck in your area, because we know, yes, you may be out of water for the last 2 days, but we know by day 4 or 5 we'll be able to supply you via the pipe.
Okay.
But we'll give priority to customers we know for sure we will not be able to reach you maybe in the next 6-7 days because of where you are.
Correct.
Which is in the high elevations.
Correct.
Because a lot of persons in the high elevations, it takes a while, even on a normal basis, to water to get to them. So we'll give priority to persons in the high elevations in terms of trucking to them. We will not truck to somebody we know that we can maybe simple close a few areas for them to get water. So we'll prioritize based on that, and based on and then we look at various agencies. So if you have a senior citizen home that may be out of water for, we'll give that a priority.
Okay.
You look at, maybe even the schools, even say a public area like a police station who have prisoners' house. You'll want to ensure that they always have water. So you look, it's very dynamic, and it's not something that you do, but you just try to, based on your information you have from the control room, you look at it and say, okay, we can concentrate on that area today. We'll try to see how we can best supply them via the pipe. And even now, we have to close off a lot of areas. We close off a lot of areas on a nightly basis to ensure that other areas get. Sometimes it doesn't always work. Sometimes things changes, because where you may plan to do something else could not work, and then you have to now go back to the drawing board and see how best you can solve that.
Jerry, we look at other areas in terms of your water-related emergencies and stuff. How do you work around this?
Okay, well, just to explain what the water-related emergency is before we go on to, how we work it out. The Minister for Agriculture, who is also the line minister for WASCO, issued that water-related emergency on May 15th, and it took effect on the 18th of May. The the issuance of that water-related emergency came on the advice of the Water Resource Management Agency, which is pretty much a custodian of the water catchment areas and so on. So based on their advice, Mr. Joseph was able to issue that water-related emergency, and it's pretty much because of the situation, the drought situation that we are facing, the shortages of water, the significant decrease in the supply of water that we would have normally had to supply our customers. So based on that information and based on a lot of, back and forth and, really finding out whether or not it was necessary to do so, that water-related emergency was issued. Of course, there are prohibitions associated with that water-related emergency, and as it implies, it is issued so that people know that they are only to use water for necessities. So any activity that would have you using water for non-basic activities is prohibited. And based on the water-related emergency, the prohibitions therein are for the washing of a vehicle using a hose, for watering of a lawn, hedge, garden, farm, ground, and recreational field, for pressure washing of a house using a hose, or watering or washing a roadway, pavement, path, garage, or outroom, for concrete mixing and block making, to fill a leaking or overflowing storage tank and a swimming pool. Also in that water-related emergency, there are actions that you need to stay away from, desist from, and among that is tampering with WASCO's infrastructure. And some people tamper with the infrastructure to divert or abstract water from the network, which is prohibited under the water-related emergency. The abstraction of raw water upstream of WASCO's infrastructure or upstream of the intakes is prohibited. Any activity which may require the use of a considerable or excessive quantity of water is prohibited. And with these prohibitions come penalties. So if you are caught in breach of any of these activities that have been outlined in the water-related emergency, then a person who contravenes subsection 1 commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $3,000 or to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 6 months, or to both, and to a further fine not exceeding $50 for each day during which the contravention continues. So
who's policing the police?
That is a very good question, and people have been calling into WASCO to make reports that people are in contravention of the prohibitions or the conditions in the water-related emergency. And we have to let people know that while the water-related emergency relates directly to WASCO and our operations and pretty much protecting the water resource that we have, we as a company are not the responsible body for policing the activities by members of the public who are in breach of this water-related emergency. So that responsibility falls on law enforcement. So people can make reports to the police with regard to anybody who is found in contravention of the water-related emergency. So anybody who is participating in an activity that falls under what I just mentioned from the water-related emergency can be arrested. Action can be taken against you. Now, in this water-related emergency, I know that there are certain areas that may raise an eyebrow, and when I read the section that relates to concrete mixing and block making,
yes. I was wondering.
Yes. So we are not, WASCO is not going to come to stop a business from, operating, a construction business from operating. This does not fall under our purview. However, and I can point to an example where we got an application from a construction company asking for permission to continue its operations in 2 locations during this water-related emergency. And we had to direct this company to the Ministry of Agriculture and the Water Resource Management Agency, which of course is the agency responsible for the upkeep of the intakes and making sure that they are in a state where we can get water and safe water and so on, and they are protected. Because a lot of those intakes are pretty much rivers that are found very close to farms and so on. And well, some of the activity related to farming can impact
yes.
the water and the amount of water we have available. So we don't want any contamination and so on, and the Water Resource Management Agency is really the agency pretty much policing the water and making sure that it is safe and it's not contaminated and so on.
So you, moving forward, you have not gotten any problems, any people are calling, but when people
are
call,
calling,
what do you all do?
We guide them in the direction of the police. We ask them to make a report with the police and so on, and they would take it from there in terms of actually enforcing the water-related emergency, because this is not, this is above WASCO's purview. It is beyond our purview to take any sort of legal action against anyone who is in contravention of the water emergency.
Okay, so you know your area.
Yes, yes, we know our limitations.
Okay, I believe we are due for our another break. You're watching Agriculture on the Move. Stay tuned. We'll be back soon.
Virus ready to harm us. Panic is not the answer. We can win this together.
Often use hand sanitizer, better yet use soap and water.
We must protect each other if we are to beat this corona.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. Be a soldier, together we can beat this corona.
So you don't become the next case. Avoid touching your face. I'm sure you've been told so. Handshakes and hugging are up. No, no.
Advice is you to please. Cover your mouth and your nose if you cough or sneeze.
Practice social distancing and avoid large social gatherings.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. St. Lucia, be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
For further information, please contact the hotline at 311 or the Bureau of Health Education at 468-5349.
Welcome back to the program. Mr. White, let's go straight into the Vie Fort Water Redevelopment Project. I know that project has been there for a while. I'm happy to hear, it's about to take some root. Tell us where we're at this juncture.
Good. So Vie Fort, that area, it is one of the largest areas in terms of communities in St. Lucia. It is seen as going to be a booming economic hub in the years to come.
Correct.
So the water supply is very important for
Very
that there.
important.
It has suffered in the past in terms of both quantity and quality issues. Quantity in terms of our dry season, like right now, where the levels do drop a lot, and residents in the far reach of the community do have a problem with supply. And when the rain falls, then we get quality issues in terms of the stability issues, where the plants, because we lack treatment at our proper treatment at our treatment plants, the plants have to shut down, and again residents are affected. So the Vie Fort project was essentially conceptualized to bring these improvements to the area. what has happened, so essentially we have two systems there. One is functions from the Grace Water Treatment Plant, and the other from the Beausejour Water Treatment Plant. The Grace Water Treatment Plant provides the bulk of the supply. In the new project, essentially, we will be replacing or upgrading these plants for these two areas. Okay, we have commenced what we call a phase 1 of the Vie Fort project. We we engaged a contractor, and that contract was signed late last year, in December of last year, and the project formally commenced in March of this year. Okay. So, letting everybody know that that project has started. It's a design-build project. So right now the contractor is doing the design works for the project, and then he will move into the construction phase, and we anticipate that will be probably by July of this year. Okay. What does the project involve? Essentially, it involves, as I said, the two main treatment plants will be rebuilt at Grace and Beausejour, okay. But we're also building a new intake at Grace to accommodate the increased flows that we would need for the Grace plant. We are rehabilitating the existing raw water line that comes from Grace intake to the Grace water treatment plant. Then we are also increasing the transmission capacities that exist in Vie Fort. So we're building about 4 or 5 new transmission pipelines that take water from these water treatment plants to a number of new storage tanks in the area. We are building tanks at both plants, and also we're building plants at Laborie and at Latony. This will provide us with extra capacity, probably about 1 million more gallons of water in terms of storage for the Vie Fort area. Wow. So the project, as I said, therefore contains the building of the intakes, the water treatment plants, the pump. We have a pump station also at Beausejour, which is going to be built, as well as the transmission lines and the storage tanks. The first phase of the project is going to last about 18 months. So it will be the first phase will finish in about September of next year, and then there's proposed a second stage, which we should basically seek to finish off the project, especially with the building of the Beausejour water treatment plant. We'll be doing the Grace water treatment plant in the first phase, okay. And then the Beausejour plant in the second phase. So, but once the first phase is finished, that will bring an immediate impact to the Vie Fort area through the Grace plant, and then we will be providing additional capacities once the Beausejour plant is finished, and that'll be another 6 months on. So, about 2 years from now, we will have a new system within the Vie Fort, which will provide a lot of relief to the residents of that area. Very good, very good.
Timothy, I know there are concerns about the non-revenue water. I also know that one, I don't know if the project has begun, where you had Cuban company who came in to assist that. Give us an update on that.
Okay, well, it's not the Cuban, but the Germans. We had
Germans, okay.
Right, the Germans came last year, I think for about 12 months, to give us some technical support in terms of our non-revenue water. That program, or that first phase, was completed, I think, in December last year. Okay. And now we into the implementation phase in terms of rolling out our non-revenue water projects. However, because of the way the year started, where COVID-19 came on, and so we had a lot of disruptions in terms of our normal operations. Then the drought set in, so we have not rolled out a number of, but a lot of the institutional capacity things, these things are in place in terms of our procedural stuff. These things have been implemented, but the actual work on the ground, we have not rolled out everything yet because of the various interruptions we have. But that's something that we have as our #1 priority.
When things get back to normal.
Right, in terms of our non-revenue water, because that's
that's an issue.
That's a big issue for us, and that's something that we, the board has made a #1 priority in terms of we getting that.
Do you think it's because of our infrastructure is so old?
Yes, because most of our infrastructure, a lot of our major infrastructure is over 50 years. You're talking about the major line from, say, Shock to Grosselet. Was built in 1971 thereabout. And you're talking about a pipeline that's in the ground in maybe different type of soil. So after a while, you know, these lines would have to be changed. Upgrade works in a lot of areas. And not only that too, you talk about the size of the pipelines. Maybe it was useful, say 15, 20 years ago. But you know, the North has grown significantly. You have more hotel stock, you have more household stock, you have a lot of developments where that where you had maybe a 8-inch pipeline would have been to supply all these persons comfortably. Now it will not be to do that, so you have to look now at redesign your system, maybe create more redundancy in your network and stuff like that. So it's work in progress, and however, it's a lot of capital, a lot of money, which will have to be spent now to do all these various things. But we're looking at them doing them in various phases, looking at prioritizing, see which ones have to be done first. In terms of especially the North line, we realize that they have some issues because of the age, and then there are some points where you think that we may be losing some water because of the integrity of the line. So all these things are part of our whole plan for the future. Great.
Okay, as we are winding down, Mr. Weck, I know there's so many other projects that we wanted to talk about. The Tiroshi water project, which is from Miko 2, I know that was done. I know we have the Buta project. But any final words as we are about to end from you, sir?
Well, just to come back a bit, make full circle back to John Compton at JCD, basically, and we are also implementing the millet intake project, whereby millet intake essentially augments the supply from John Compton, where it supports the supply to the John Compton Dam. Right. That intake will be rehabilitated to provide, I think it's about 5 million gallons of water, and we're also building a new pipeline from that, which will get back to the John Compton, which will go back to the pipeline that supplies the John Compton Dam to the treatment plant. Okay. So that's one more project which will come on stream, and it will help immensely in providing a better water supply.
Final words from you, Sharon?
Well, I just want to implore patience from our customers. I know this is a very difficult time for people who are maybe not able to access water as frequently as they used to. We are facing a drought situation, and I just want to assure people that we at WASCO are doing all in our power to get the supply of water to our customers as frequently and as regularly as possible under the circumstances.
Great. Final words from you, sir?
Well, first, I think I need to thank all our employees. I think it has been a challenging time for everybody at WASCO, and I would like to thank them for their continuous hard work to reach our customers, to repair the pipelines, and to even supply our customers. And I would like to thank the customers too for giving us the information, because without information we'll not be able to act. I know some persons do not get water as regular as they want, but we're trying our best to reach everybody, and we just like to thank them for the patience exercised and continue calling us to give us the feedback.
Great, thank you very much. Well, Mr. White, thank you. Cherian, thank you. And of course, Mr. Gibbs, thank you very much for being here. I look forward for a part 2, because there's a lot more to be discussed. There are lots of projects, in the pipeline. So I really want to thank you for being here. You've been watching Agriculture on the Move. We had Team WASCO with us, and as you know, water is life. We need water for agriculture. Please conserve water, store water, build tanks, buy tanks. The bankers are giving loans for tanks. I'm Philip Sidney. Stay safe.